Very good. Very good. Good morning and welcome. We have a little bit of sunshine out there and a little bit of clouds, but overall a wonderful day. So we've been talking about doubt this month. And first off, I'll start with a funny story about a man who went to a job interview. And today we're going to be talking about debuting the doubting self. Went to a job interview and the interviewer said, "What's your greatest weakness?" The man paused and said, "Honesty." The interviewer said, "Well, I don't think honesty is a weakness." And the man paused and said, "I don't care what you think." So, now that's not exactly the kind of honesty we're talking about today. That may be honesty without kindness, without time limiting, without a filter. But the story does point to something very real. Most of us are trying to figure out how much of ourselves to reveal and how much to keep hidden. We've gotten pretty good at presenting the confident self, the self that says, "I've got this," the self that smiles and says, "Everything's fine," the self that knows the right words, says the right prayer, and tries to look at life as being under control. But today our topic asks a deeper and more courageous question. What would happen if I debuted my doubting self the way I share my confident self? Interesting question. How might my life and relationships change? Because this is not a small question. It asks us to look behind the mask. It asks us to look at the part of us that still wonders, still questions, still wrestles, and still says, "I believe, but I'm not fully sure I understand." And here is where I want to begin. Doubt is not outside the spiritual life. It's part of the spiritual life. Ernest Holmes writes, "All that we consciously know, say or think, feel or believe, hope or long for, fear or doubt, is some reaction of the self-knowing mind." This means that doubt is not some strange visitor that shows up just because we've failed spiritually. Doubt is one of the movements of the mind. It is one of the ways consciousness reveals what is still being healed, questioned, stretched, or awakened. So the question is not, do I have doubt? The better question is, what do I do with it? Do I hide it? Do I judge it? Do I pretend it's not there? Or do I bring it into the light of spirit and allow it to be part of my growth? Doubt is not a flaw in your spirituality. It may be evidence that you are actually engaged in your spirituality. Everyone wrestles with uncertainty at times. Will this work out? Am I on the right path? Can I trust life now? Is prayer really making a difference? Why did this happen? Where is God in all this? These are not weak questions. These are human questions. And sometimes they are holy questions. There's a difference between living in doubt and listening to doubt. Living in doubt means we let doubt run the whole show. It becomes the driver of the car. It tells us where to go, when to stop, and why we should not even try. Listening to doubt is different. Listening to doubt means we pause and ask, what is this trying to show me? Maybe doubt is showing me that I need more information. Maybe it's showing me that I am afraid. Maybe it is showing me that an old wound has been touched. Maybe it's showing me that I am standing at the edge of a larger life. I think about the first time many of us have tried something new. Maybe it was a new job, a new relationship, a new spiritual practice. Maybe it was a new leadership role, or even speaking in front of people. Very few people begin with perfect certainty. Many of us begin with a mixture of hope and hesitation. We say, "I think I can do this." Right beside that thought comes, "What if I can't?" That does not mean we are failing. It means that we are growing. Holmes writes, "Never limit your view of life by any past experiences." That's a real powerful line, because sometimes we take those experiences with us and they keep with us and limit us so much in the future. Doubt often tries to build a future out of the past. It says, because this happened before, it'll probably happen again. But Spirit says something deeper. "Behold, I make all things new." Spirit says there's more life to you than you have yet imagined. Spirit says you're not limited by the old pattern. This is why doubt can become sacred when we bring it into awareness. There's that word awareness again. I love that in everything we do. It can show us where we are still holding on to an old story. Once we see the story, we're no longer compelled to live by it. There's a well-known story about Thomas Edison and the invention of the light bulb. The exact number of times he tried to make a light bulb doesn't matter from story to story. When he was asked, how many times did you fail to make a light bulb? He said, I didn't fail to make it. I found out how many ways you can't make it. Clear distinction there. He had doubt, of course, but he didn't let the doubt be the final word. He didn't let doubt stop him. It refined him. He didn't let the perfect certainty he didn't need the perfect certainty to continue. He needed willingness. There's a word, that's a word worth taking home today, willingness. We talk about being willing to be willing, if we have to go back that far with things. I may not be certain, but I'm willing. I may not see the whole path, but I'm willing to take the next step. I may still have questions, but I'm willing to be open to Spirit. That's not weak faith, that's living faith. Now let's talk about certainty for a moment. Certainty can feel comforting. It gives us a feeling we know what's going to happen and that we are in control and nothing can surprise us. But certainty can become an idol. An idol is something we give too much power to. It is anything we mistake for God. And sometimes we can turn certainty into kind of a spiritual idol. We can start to believe that being spiritual means always being sure, always having the answer, always knowing what the lesson is, always being able to explain why something happened. But life does not fit into neat little boxes. We all know that one. Sometimes life is mystery. Sometimes life is change. Sometimes life is a doorway we didn't expect to walk through. Holmes reminds us, no form is permanent. All forms must return to formless. The formless is eternal. That means the outer world is always changing. Bodies change. Jobs change. Relationships change. Communities change. Ideas change. Even our understanding of God can deepen. If life is unfolding, then rigid certainty can block our spiritual growth. Certainty says, I already know. Faith says, I'm willing to be shown. Certainty says, this is the only way. Faith says, Spirit may have a way I haven't yet seen. Certainty says, I must have the answer before I move. Faith says, I can take the next step and trust. There's a beautiful line often connected with Rainier Maria Rilke. Live the question now. Live the question now. That's not always easy for us. We like answers. I like answers. Most of us like answers. We like to know how to plan. We like the timetable. We like the guarantee and the little sign from God that says, yes, this is exactly how it'll work out. But spiritual growth often asks us to live without having the whole map. Think about a GPS right now. Most of us use it every day. A GPS may show us the next turn, but it doesn't show us every detail of the whole trip at once. It gives us just enough to keep moving. Sometimes Spirit works like our GPS. We don't always get the whole route. We get the next faithful step. Doubt becomes dangerous only when it causes us to freeze over forever. But doubt can be useful when it keeps us humble, curious, and open. Howard Thurman speaks about patience as more than passive endurance. He points to the need to look honestly at what is happening, to pay attention to the delay, and to understand the environment we are in. That's a very practical spirituality. Patience is not just sitting around doing nothing. Patience is spiritual listening. Patience is paying attention. Patience is asking, what is mine to do while I wait? That is where doubt can serve us. It can slow us down long enough to listen more deeply. Not every delay is denial. Not every question is unbelief. Not every season of uncertainty is a failure of faith. Sometimes the soul is being stretched so it can hold a larger good. Now this becomes very human. Most of us do not hide our doubts only from ourselves. We hide them from others. We wonder, What will people think? Will I seem less spiritual? Will I still belong? Will they trust me if they know I have questions? So we show up polished. We share our victories. We share our breakthroughs, and we share the part that says, I'm doing great. And when there's nothing wrong with sharing, while there's nothing wrong with sharing our good, we should celebrate the good. We should give thanks for the healing, answered prayers, growth, and joy. But if we only share the polished part, community can become shallow. It becomes a room full of people saying, I'm fine, while wondering if they're the only one who's not fine. True spiritual community is not built on pretending. It's built on presence. It's built on compassion. It's built on the willingness to be real with one another. What if somebody in the community said, I'm praying, but I'm scared. I believe in abundance, but I'm worried about money. I believe in healing, but I'm tired. I believe in oneness today, but I feel separate. I believe Spirit is presence, but I don't understand what's happening right now. Would that make them less spiritual? Yeah, I don't think so. I think it may make them more honest. And honesty held in love can become holy ground. Cole Arthur Riley writes, maybe God knows the path we have walked, but there is glory and healing in watching it fall from our own lips, in our own words. You know, that powerful statement. There's healing in truth. There's healing in giving voice to that which we've carried silently. Many of us knows what it feels like when one brave person in the room tells the truth. The whole room changes. People breathe differently. Shoulders drop. Faces soften. And somebody else thinks, maybe I'm not the only one. The gift of open honesty in community. When one person takes off the mask, someone else discovers they can take off their mask also. That doesn't mean we share everything with everyone. You know, wisdom matters, safety matters, timing matters. We do not need to hand our deepest tenderness to people who have not earned the right to hold it. But in safe and loving spaces, sharing our doubt can deepen our connection. It can move us from performance to presence. It can move us from looking spiritual to being spiritually honest. It can move us from image to intimacy. And maybe this is one of the great gifts of spiritual community. We help each other remember what is true when one of us cannot feel it alone. There are days when my faith may feel strong and when I can hold the light for you. And there may be days when your faith feels strong and you can hold the light for me. That's not weakness, that's community. Holmes writes, if we are to have active faith, the faith of God, instead of merely a faith in God, then thought must be centered in the universal mind. I love that phrase, active faith. Active faith is not pretending. Active faith is not denying our questions. Active faith is bringing the whole self, including doubt, into the awareness of God. It is saying, here I am, Spirit, not just the polished part, not just the confident part, not just the part that knows the right words. Here I am with my faith, my fear, my hope, my hesitation, my trust, and my questions. And the beautiful thing is this, Spirit is not frightened by our doubt. God is not offended by our questions. Infinite love does not turn away because we are being honest. In fact, honest may be the very doorway through which we experience love more deeply. Now, because we're a science mind community, we need to say something about doubt and prayer. In spiritual mind treatment, we do seek to move beyond doubt. We do not want to plant a seed and then dig it up every 5 minutes to see if it's growing. There's a place in prayer where we release doubt and trust the law of mind to do its work. But that doesn't mean we begin by pretending doubt's not there. In fact, real prayer often begins with honesty. We recognize God as the one life, the one presence, the one power. We unify with that presence and remember that we are not separate from it. Then we speak our word. We declare our truth. We release. But if we're carrying doubt, fear, or pain, we do not have to shame ourselves for it. We bring it into prayer. We let the light of truth shine on it. We allow our awareness to shift. We move from, I'm alone in this, to Spirit is right here. We move from, I don't know what to do, to wisdom is available. We move from the doubt defines me to this doubt is passing through consciousness and I can meet it with love. This is a very different experience. We don't glorify doubt. We are not building a house there either. We are simply refusing to be ashamed of our humanity. When our humanity is welcomed into the light of Spirit, transformation becomes possible. So we return to our question for the day. What would happen if I debuted my doubting self the way I share my confident self? Maybe your relationships would deepen. Maybe your spiritual life would become more honest. Maybe you would feel less alone. Maybe someone else would feel less alone because you were brave enough to tell the truth. Maybe you would discover that doubt doesn't have to separate you from faith. It becomes the beginning of more honest faith. This week, I invite you into a simple practice. Notice where you are wearing the mask of certainty. Notice where you say, I'm fine, when something in you wants to say, I need prayer. Notice where you feel you have to have the answer before you allow yourself to belong. And then gently, wisely, choose a safe place to be more real. Talk with a trusted friend. Open to your partner. Open to your prayer partner. Write honestly in your journal. Speak to God without editing yourself. There's a new one. You might simply say, Spirit, this is where I am today. I don't have all the answers, but I'm willing to be guided. That's enough. So the affirmation for this week is as follows. I share all parts of myself, including doubt, with grace. Repeat that with me. I share all parts of myself, including doubt, with grace. One more time. I share all parts of myself, including doubt, with grace. You don't have to have it all figured out to belong. You don't need to be certain to be spiritual. You don't have to hide your questions to be whole. As Rumi reminds us, the wound is the place where the light enters you. Today we might say, doubt may be the place where the light enters you. So let's bring it all into the light. Our faith, our questions, our courage, our uncertainty, our longing, our love, and let us trust that Spirit is large enough to hold it all. And now I invite you to take a breath and settle into your chair just for a moment. Allow your body to soften a bit. Take another breath and allow your mind just to become still and allow your heart to open. Because I recognize one infinite presence, one life, one love, one wisdom, one divine reality expressing through all that is. The presence is whole, complete, peaceful, powerful, and all available. It's the quiet strength beneath every question. It is the steady light within every season of uncertainty. It is a love that never turns away. And I know this same presence lives within me, as me, and through me. It lives in each person here. There's no separation between God and the life we are living. There's no place where Spirit is absent. Even in our questions, Spirit is present. Even in our doubt, Spirit is near. Even when we cannot see the whole path, the light within us still knows the way. So I speak this word now for each one of us, and I know that every hidden place within us is gently welcomed into the light. Every doubt is met with compassion. Every fear is met with love. Every question becomes an opening for deeper wisdom, deeper trust, and faith. I declare that we do not need to pretend. We do not need to wear the mask of uncertainty. We do not need to have every answer in order to belong, to be loved, or to be whole. We are already held in the heart of God. We are already guided by wisdom within. We are already supported by a power greater than we are, and we know that we can use it. So I affirm our spiritual community is safe. It is a safe and sacred place for honesty, compassion, and growth. We meet one another with open hearts. We listen without judgment. We hold one another in prayer. We remember the truth for each one of us. For each one of us is not forgotten in a moment. I know that doubt no longer has the power to stop us. It becomes a doorway. It becomes a teacher. It becomes a place where light enters. We move forward not because we are certain of every step, but because we are willing. Willing to trust, willing to listen, willing to grow, willing to let Spirit reveal the next step. For this awareness, I am deeply grateful. Grateful for the questions that open us. Grateful for the faith that carries us. grateful for the love that holds us, and grateful for the presence that is always here. And now I release these words into the law of mind, knowing it is already received, already acted upon, and already unfolding in grace. I let it be, I trust it, I allow it, and so it is. Namaste.